Sign here, Mom. It's just paperwork. For tax purposes. My son David stood in my kitchen, his wife Vanessa beside him, both dressed like they'd just come from a country club, which they probably had. The document he was sliding across my table had words like deed, transfer, and estate planning scattered throughout. I looked up at him. My boy. My only child. The baby I'd rocked through colic and fevers. The teenager I'd worked double shifts to send to college. Tax purposes? I asked. Estate tax, Mom. You know how it works. If you die and this house is still in your name, the family could lose 40% of its value. He smiled. That practiced smile I'd been seeing more and more since he married Vanessa 6 months ago. But if you gift it to me now, we avoid all that. It's still your house. You live here forever. Nothing changes except the name on the deed. Nothing changes. Everything had already changed. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My name is Margaret Hayes. I'm 64 years old, a retired elementary school teacher, and until that moment in my kitchen, I thought I had a good son. My husband Tom died 7 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, devastating. He left me this house in Portland, Maine, a modest 3-bedroom we'd bought in 1985 for $89,000. It's worth about $425,000 now. Not a fortune, but it's mine. Paid off. My sanctuary. David was supportive after his father died. He called weekly, visited monthly. He had a good job as an accountant in Boston, was dating casually, seemed stable. I was proud of him. Then he met Vanessa. Vanessa Bradford Sutton. Yes, she hyphenated. Her family owned a chain of luxury car dealerships across New England. Money wasn't just comfortable for her, it was assumed, expected, infinite. They got engaged after 4 months. Married 3 months after that. I wasn't involved in the planning. When I offered to contribute, I had $15,000 saved, Vanessa laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, Margaret, that's sweet, but the flowers alone are $30,000. Don't worry about it. The wedding was at her parents' estate in Greenwich, Connecticut. I wore a dress from Macy's. Vanessa's mother wore Chanel. I was seated in the 3rd row. Vanessa's childhood piano teacher was in the 1st. But I told myself, he's happy. That's what matters. The changes started slowly. First, David stopped calling weekly, then monthly, then only on holidays, and even then, Vanessa was always just about to call me to lunch or coffee, but somehow it never materialized. Then came the comments. Mom, have you thought about updating this place? It's so dated. Why do you still drive that old Honda? It's not safe. Vanessa's mother said you could meet her interior designer. She does consultations for free for family. I didn't want a consultation. I liked my floral couch. I liked my cream-colored walls. Tom and I had painted them together. But I smiled. I nodded. Because I wanted to keep my son. 6 weeks before that day in my kitchen, David called with exciting news. Mom, we're pregnant! I cried. Happy tears. I was going to be a grandmother. That's wonderful, sweetheart. We need to talk about living arrangements, he interrupted. Vanessa's parents are gifting us their summer house in Cape Elizabeth. It's only 20 minutes from you. We'll be closer. Cape Elizabeth. Where the lighthouse is. Where homes start at $1.2 million. That's wonderful, I said. Which brings me to something important. His voice shifted. More formal. We've been talking to a financial advisor about multi-generational wealth planning. Multi-generational. He'd never used words like that before. Okay. Your house, Mom. It's your biggest asset. When you die, estate taxes could take a huge chunk, but there are strategies. We want to help you protect your legacy. My legacy. The house Tom and I had painted and repaired and loved. I don't understand. We'll explain everything when we visit next week. Don't worry. We're going to take care of you. Take care of me. That should have been comforting. It wasn't. The next week, they arrived with folders and charts. Vanessa did most of the talking, which was new. David just nodded along. So, here's the situation, Margaret. She'd stopped calling me Mom after the wedding. You're asset-rich, but cash-poor. Classic retiree problem. This house is probably 70% of your net worth. I hadn't told her my net worth. If something happens to you, and I don't mean to be morbid, but at your age, we have to be realistic, David inherits. But the IRS takes their cut first, 40%. Nearly $170,000 gone. Poof. She snapped her fingers. But, she continued, if you transfer the house to David now as a gift, it's different. No estate tax. You retain a life estate, which means you live here until you die. It's literally the same for you, but David and our baby are protected. David put his hand over mine. We're not trying to take your house, Mom. We're trying to save it. For the family. For the family. I looked at the papers. There were a lot of them. Can I think about it? Vanessa's smile tightened. Of course. But our attorney says we should execute before the end of the year. Tax law changes. They left the papers. I spent that night reading them. Searching terms on my iPad. Life estate. Remainder interest. Grantor. Grantee. And then I found the forums. Elder abuse forums. My son convinced me to deed my house to him. Then he sold it and put me in a home. Life estate sounds good until they decide you're a burden. Once your name is off the deed, you have no control. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called someone I should have called immediately. My friend Patricia, who'd been a paralegal for 30 years before retiring. I met her at the diner on Congress Street. She read the papers while I pushed eggs around my plate. Finally, she looked up. Margaret, don't sign this. But the estate tax. The estate tax exemption is over $13 million now. You're nowhere near that. You'd pay zero estate tax. The diner noise faded. What? They're lying to you. Or they don't know what they're talking about, which is worse. She tapped the paper. If you sign this, David owns your house. You have a life estate, sure, but if he wants to sell it, he can. If he wants to take out a mortgage on it, he can. If he decides you need to go to a nursing home, he can sell it and keep the money. My hands started shaking. Why would he? Patricia's face softened. Honey, I don't know. Maybe Vanessa's pushing him. Maybe they have debt we don't know about. Maybe they just see dollar signs. But this is not about protecting you. This is about controlling your asset. I drove home in a fog. I kept seeing David's face. My boy, would he really do this? Then I remembered something. 2 weeks earlier, I'd overheard a phone call. David thought I was in the garden. He was in my living room, talking to someone. The house is worth at least $425,000. Once it's in my name, we can take a HELOC for the renovation money. No, she'll never know. She doesn't understand finance. Yeah, life estate. She stays there. For now. For now. I'd told myself I'd misheard, that I was paranoid, that my son wouldn't. But he would. I sat in my car in my own driveway and cried. Then I stopped crying and got angry. Then I got strategic. First, I called an attorney. Not the one Vanessa recommended. My own attorney, Eleanor Reeves, who'd handled Tom's estate. I told her everything. Smart move not signing, she said. Let's do this right. I'm going to help you set up a trust. Your house goes into an irrevocable trust with your granddaughter. I don't have a granddaughter yet. With your future grandchild as the beneficiary. You're the trustee while you're alive. You have full control. But David can't touch it. Not now. Not ever. And when you pass, it goes directly to your grandchild, bypassing David entirely. Can we do that? We absolutely can. And should. I'm also going to draft a new will that makes your intentions crystal clear. And Margaret, document everything, every conversation, every visit. If this goes south, we need evidence. I started recording conversations. My iPad, face down on the table, voice memos running. David called the next week. Have you thought about the paperwork? I'm still reviewing it. Mom, we need to move on this. The tax deadline? I spoke to my own attorney. She said I don't owe any estate tax. The exemption is over $13 million. Silence. Your attorney? Mom, you're paying someone to confuse you. Our advisor is a specialist. In what? Elder financial abuse? I heard him inhale sharply. That's insulting. I'm trying to help you. Then explain to me, in detail, how I'm going to owe estate taxes on an estate worth less than $500,000. More silence. I'll call you back. He hung up. He didn't call back. Vanessa did. Margaret, I'm disappointed. We're trying to help you, and you're accusing us of what, exactly? Stealing from you? I want to understand why you told me I'd owe $170,000 in taxes when that's not true. Our advisor is wrong. Or lying. Which is it? Her voice went cold. You know what? Fine. Keep your house. But don't expect us to bail you out when the taxes come, and don't expect to be involved with our child if you're going to be hostile. She hung up. Don't expect to be involved with our child. That was the weapon. My grandchild. They dangle access like a carrot. I called Eleanor immediately. They're threatening grandparent access, I told her. Maine has grandparent rights laws, but they're complicated. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. How are you doing? Angry. Sad. Determined. Good. Stay determined. I have the trust documents ready. Come sign this week. I did. I transferred my house into the Margaret Hayes Family Trust. Beneficiary, my future grandchild. Trustee, me, with Patricia as successor trustee if I became incapacitated. David couldn't touch it now, but they didn't know that yet. 2 weeks later, David showed up unannounced, without Vanessa. Mom, we need to talk. He looked tired. Good. I hoped he wasn't sleeping. Come in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where he'd tried to get me to sign my house away. I know you're upset, he started. Upset? David, you lied to me about estate taxes. You tried to get me to transfer my house to you under false pretenses. What would you call that? It was Vanessa's advisor who, don't blame your wife. You went along with it. You stood in this kitchen and lied to me. His face reddened. I didn't lie. I believed what we were told. Did you? I leaned forward. Or did you see an opportunity to get your hands on a $425,000 asset? I heard you on the phone, David, talking about a HELOC, talking about how I'd never know, how I don't understand finance. He went pale. You were listening? I live here. You were talking in my living room. He stood up. You know what, Mom? Maybe this is for the best. Vanessa's right. You're paranoid. You're turning into one of those bitter old women who thinks everyone's out to get them. Bitter old woman. Get out. What? Get out of my house, the house you're never going to own. Mom, I've transferred the property into an irrevocable trust for your child. Not for you. You'll never control it. You'll never sell it. You'll never take a loan against it. And when I die, it goes directly to my grandchild. You won't see a penny. He stared at me. You can't do that. I already did. 10 days ago. It's done. You lost. Something crossed his face. Rage. And something else. Calculation. Fine, he said quietly. Then I guess you won't be meeting your grandchild. He walked out. I sat at that table and shook. Not from fear. From grief. I'd lost my son, but I'd saved my house. And I'd protected my grandchild from learning that love could be bought and sold. The next 4 months were silent. No calls, no texts. I didn't know if the baby had been born. I didn't know the gender. I didn't know anything. Patricia checked in weekly. Have you heard from him? No. I'm sorry, honey. Don't be. I did the right thing. But at night, alone in my house, I wondered, had I? Should I have just signed? Kept the peace? Died with my son still speaking to me? Then I'd remember. For now. That's how long I would have been allowed to stay. For now. No. I'd done the right thing. 7 months after our fight, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. David. Holding a baby carrier. I opened the door. Mom. His voice cracked. This is Sophie. Your granddaughter. The baby was tiny. Dark hair. Tom's nose. I couldn't speak. Can we come in? I stepped aside. We sat in my living room. Sophie slept in the carrier between us. Where's Vanessa? I finally asked. He rubbed his face. We're separated. She moved back to her parents' place. I'm sorry. Don't be. He laughed bitterly. You were right. About everything. I waited. After you set up the trust, Vanessa was furious. Not sad. Furious. She kept saying we'd lost out on $400,000. She had plans for that money, the renovation, a boat, private school for Sophie, plans for my house. Yeah, he looked at me, really looked at me. Mom, I'm so sorry. I got swept up in her world, where everyone has money and assets and strategies, where your worth is your net worth. I lost sight of what actually matters. Yeah. Sophie stirred, made a little sound. David reached down automatically, rocked the carrier gently. She left 2 weeks after Sophie was born, said she couldn't do middle-class motherhood. She's filing for divorce, wants custody but minimal. Weekends. When it's convenient. My heart broke for that tiny baby. What do you need? I asked. I don't need anything, Mom. I came to apologize. To introduce you to Sophie. To tell you that you did the right thing. That trust leaving everything to Sophie directly, that was smart. She'll need it. College, life, whatever she wants. Will you have enough? Raising her alone? He nodded. I'm moving back to Portland. Got a job at a firm here. I can't afford Cape Elizabeth, but there's a good house for rent near Back Cove. 2 bedrooms, close to good schools. Close to me? If you'll have us. I looked at Sophie. At my son. At the broken pieces of a relationship I thought I'd lost forever. There's a condition, I said. He tensed. Okay, family dinner. Once a week. You and Sophie. Here. I cook. We talk. We rebuild. His eyes filled with tears. Deal. And David? Yeah? I'm proud of you. For leaving. For choosing Sophie over money. For coming back here. It's what Dad would have done. Yes? It is. Sophie opened her eyes then. Dark blue. She looked right at me. And I knew. Tom and I had raised a good man. He'd lost his way for a while. But he found his way back. 3 years later, we're still having dinner every Wednesday. Sophie calls me Mimi. She loves my dated house, especially the garden, where we plant tomatoes every spring. David never asked about the trust again. He knows. Sophie will have options. Security. Freedom. Vanessa remarried last year. Someone from her parents' circle. She sees Sophie twice a month, sends expensive gifts, doesn't know her favorite color. It's purple. Last week, Sophie was playing in the living room while David and I did dishes. Mom, he said quietly. Thank you. For what? For not giving up your house. For protecting Sophie. For protecting me from myself. I dried a plate. That's what mothers do. Not all mothers. No, not all. We stood there, in my kitchen, in my house, in the home that Tom and I built and that Sophie will inherit someday. And I thought about that day, in this same kitchen, when David slid those papers across the table, when Vanessa promised nothing would change. Everything changed, but not in the way they planned. I kept my home. I kept my dignity. I kept my granddaughter's inheritance. And eventually, I got my son back too. Not because I gave in, but because I stood firm. Sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes protection looks like paperwork and boundaries and uncomfortable conversations. And sometimes the best gift you can give your children is showing them that integrity matters more than assets, that character matters more than control, and that real family isn't about what you own, it's about who you are when everything else is stripped away. Sophie will understand that someday, and David finally does now. As for me, I'm 67 now. Still in my house, still driving my Honda, still watering my garden, still here, and that's exactly where I belong.